Hey everybody, so we're gonna go live here just a little bit early just to give people time to realize that we're doing this for those who didn't see the announcement and just to make sure that everybody's got plenty of time to get here before we start. So as soon as people start showing up, then we'll start talking about our trip and anything else anybody wants to talk about. So while we are waiting, I guess we can just talk about whatever. So right now, personally, I gotta say, my head hurts, and I'm not having the greatest day. But hopefully, doing this stream it'll help, and then things will be nice, and we'll see. So it is now 8 o'clock, and as soon as people start arriving, we will go ahead and start. And if nobody starts showing up, well, then I guess I'll just talk, and whoever else wants to talk will talk, and we'll just see how it goes from there. Hello, how are you doing? Alexia, is that how you pronounce your name? Um, I'm doing okay. I have a headache and just kind of feel a little blah at the moment, but otherwise, I'm not complaining. Could be better, could be worse, kind of thing. I don't know why you're the only one here so far. I guess we'll give people a couple of minutes to start showing up, and if nobody else does, then I guess we'll just continue and I'll just talk to you. And whoever else wants to talk will talk to you. So we'll just see what ends up happening. But in the meantime, is there anything you'd like to ask? Any questions or anything like that? The trip was interesting. I mean, it had its ups and its downs. It was overall a good trip, but there were definitely some rough patches that were not so much fun. We went and visited a bunch of different family members, both our family and my husband and his system's family. And, we hung out with a lot of different friends who live up in the same area as our family members, and spent a long period of time driving back and forth in a car because we were driving from one side of a state to another. And we also went to a wedding for a friend of my husband's. So it was pretty eventful. I mean, we kind of crammed a lot into the 10 days that we were gone. And I mean, I enjoyed seeing people. We didn't exactly get the best sleep while we were gone because, uncomfortable beds and all that. But I have to say, it was a lot more exhausting than I was expecting it to be. Just a lot of talking to a lot of people. Um, the kids were a little uncomfortable with the chaos. They liked the excitement, they liked seeing other kids, and they liked seeing our grandfather, who we went and visited. But the general chaos that they weren't so fond of, and we did have a couple of incidents that weren't really the most fun for any of us, and the kids especially really didn't like it. Um, we had an unfortunate incident while we were on the trip where one of my nieces unintentionally triggered a very serious PTSD response in us, and it took us a very long time to calm down from that. And it wasn't, it was not fun. It was just not fun in the slightest. Because what happened was, I guess she was trying to play around or be funny, I don't know, but she was waving her hands near our face, and I had asked her not to do that because, I didn't want somebody to freak out and accidentally smack her trying to, be like, ah, and, just out of a startle response. And she jumped up and knocked the hat off my head, which ended up hitting me in the face, and that didn't go well. We spent the next several hours freaking out and trying not to panic and curl up in a corner and cry. So yeah, it was not not the most fun part of the trip. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I tried to explain to her as best as I could, but I mean, she's 9, and I don't really think she got it. I just said that, she needed to not do that, that it was not something I was okay with, and that, she scared me and it hurt. And, I didn't go too in depth other than that because she's a kid and not my kid. So, it's not my place to decide how much mental health stuff she gets to know about. But I am eventually going to have a conversation with my brother in law and his wife about what was going down, since she didn't get it the first couple times I explained and still smacked the hat off my head and hit me in the face. So, because this wasn't the only time she did something similar to that, it was just the most problematic for all of us. Because the first couple times we just kind of brushed it off because it wasn't anything too serious, and it was just, hey, don't do that. That's not okay. But yeah, it not really the best situation to find ourselves in, and we're still trying to figure out exactly how to have that conversation. We were figuring that it would probably be easier for my husband to initiate the conversation, only because it's his brother, and so that would probably make it easier to start the conversation out, but I'm just not really sure. It doesn't help that I very much don't agree with the way that my brother-in-law and sister-in-law discipline their kids, because they use a lot of physical force in their discipline, and that's really not something any of us are comfortable with. So that was why I didn't bring it up to them the first couple times, but it's kind of a tricky situation, and we're not 100% sure what to do about it. Yeah, hopefully they can talk to her and it'll make a difference. I'm hoping. And we did end up feeling better after a while, but it is something that's honestly still bothering us a bit. And it's definitely something we want to get closure for and resolve. I think that'll probably help the most, is just to have some sort of closure on it, know exactly what's going on, instead of the what if game that has a tendency to happen when we don't know what's going on. And yeah, physical discipline is not, it's not necessary. There is so much better ways to teach kids things. It not every kid is the same, and not every kid needs the same exact way of being taught things, but discipline is supposed to be about teaching, and smacking a kid doesn't teach them anything other than to not get caught. It doesn't teach them why what they did was wrong. So it's definitely something we're not in favor of. I mean, I understand that it's legal in our country here in America, and that people can choose how to parent their own children the way that they want to, but that doesn't mean we have to like it. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's just it's not a good situation, and it's one of those things that, on the one hand, I personally think it crosses a line when it comes to the way that my brother-in-law and sister-in-law discipline their kids. But if I don't have some form of proof, then unfortunately it's not likely that anything would really happen if I reported it. So, you know, it's one of those situations where, because of the state they live in and the laws there, there's not a whole lot I can do about it. And it's honestly something that makes all of us really uncomfortable. I mean, we really want to be able to rush in and fix the situation, but legally speaking, they're not doing anything quote unquote illegal. So that doesn't leave us a whole lot of an option. It's just kind of an unpleasant situation to be in. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not any fun. Um, if it helps, try some grounding techniques. Find some things you can hear. Name 3 things you can hear. Name 2 things you can see. Name some things you can smell. Name a taste or two if there's something you can taste at the moment. Um, Try reminding yourself what year and day it is, where you are. Um, Are there any particular grounding techniques that work really well for you? If so, try those. Because, it's definitely not a fun place to be in. And I really hope that you feel better here soon. Because being triggered is scary and unpleasant, at least in our experience. Well, I hope something helps. Yeah, for us, grounding techniques can be kind of hit or miss too. It depends on what it is, and it depends on which one of us is triggered. Because some techniques work for some of us and others work for other people better, and sometimes it's complicated figuring out who's triggered and who isn't, and what'll work and what won't, and it can be kind of a mess. So, can definitely relate in that respect that it can be hard to figure out exactly how to deal with it. But onto a lighter note of the trip, which may help somewhat at least, is that we got to see some good friends, and my husband and I got to hang out with a couple of our friends who moved from where we live now up to the side of the country where family is from, and so we got to visit with them, and we got to try out some new restaurants that we'd never been to, and there was actually quite a lot of places that we could eat, which was surprising because in our family we have quite a few food allergies. So finding places where we can eat can be difficult sometimes. But we were able to find good restaurants, and we overall had a good time. Every time we went out with our friends, it was really nice to see some people that we haven't seen in a really long time. Um, we got to see a friend of ours who visits with us a few times a year. Either we visit him or he comes to see us because he travels for his hobbies. And, he's somebody that my husband and I went to college with. And so we really like to visit with him. And then we got to see another friend of ours who we haven't seen in a number of years, who we went to college with, who recently got engaged. So that was cool. And we got to hang out with the friends, like I said, who'd moved from where we live to up where our family is living now. And we got to hang out with them, and it was really nice to see them because we haven't seen them in months at this point, and haven't heard much from them as they've been busy getting settled in. So overall, that was nice. Unfortunately, I guess the difficult thing when it comes to the family side of things is that, my husband and I, we both come from dysfunctional families. So unfortunately, we run into dysfunction whenever we're interacting with our family members. For us, it's a little bit easier because my grandfather and my uncle are the only two relatives outside of my mother that we ever interact with. We completely cut ties with everyone else because everyone else was unhealthy for us to be around. So, that's good, but my uncle has some of his own issues and he can be a bit dysfunctional, and my our grandfather is really nice. I mean, he's a really good person, but he's 99 years old. He's almost 100, and his health isn't so great, and that's hard. And he has some memory troubles because he's older. So, visiting with him, it was really nice to see him, but it's also hard because we know he's getting older and he's not going to be here forever. But it was really nice because my daughter got to see him while she's old enough to remember him, because the last time she saw him, she was only 2. So at least we know that she's old enough now that she'll actually remember him later on when he does eventually pass away, however long that is from now. Hopefully it's not a long, it's like many years, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Hopefully we're talking a long, long time from now, but we're just going to have to see. Oh, yeah, it can be hard when it's littles who are close. That does make it difficult. And restaurants, we tried this place called Mod Pizza. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, but they have gluten-free and dairy-free options, which was really nice, and their food was really tasty, so we really liked that. We got to try this restaurant called Bahama Breeze that has steak, chicken, fish, that kind of thing, and a lot of Caribbean flavors, and that was really good. Um, we went to a couple different Mexican places, the names of which I honestly do not remember because they were long and hard to pronounce. I do remember one was called Moctezuma's, which when I heard that, my first thought was that sounds awfully close to Montezuma's. And knowing what I know about Montezuma, I'm not exactly sure that I would probably want to go to a restaurant if the name was any different than it is. But so they had pretty good food there. It was a little bit more expensive, but it was thankfully good food. Um, and we also tried this restaurant called Hops and Drops. They had some really good hamburgers there. We really liked their burgers. Oh, hi, Pierre. Okay, that's fine. It was good to say hi, even if you're not going to be able to stick around. And I hope you do well on your homework. Homework is definitely important. Yeah, he most certainly is. And I'm glad that you like those places too. That's awesome. And Bahama Breeze is really good. You definitely should try it. They have some really good food there. And if you like steak, I highly suggest the Steak Oscar. It is steak topped with crab meat with a citrus butter sauce. That's some good stuff. And as for the Mexican place, it's up in like the Seattle area, I think, of Washington State. So I don't know where you guys are at, but it's definitely kind of it's a bit of a jaunt for most people unless you live directly in that area. Yeah, college is definitely it's a hard one sometimes. We've had classes where we were very, very overwhelmed, so definitely can understand that. Thanks for that, Pierre. You guys have a good day too. Oh, and another thing that we had at Bahama Breeze that was really good is they have this dessert. They call it the fruit salad, and it's fresh fruit, strawberries, pineapple, grapes, topped with mango sorbet, and that's honestly really, really good. It's refreshing and light, and it's the perfect size for a dessert, whether you eat it by yourself or share it with some people, depending on how full you are. So it was a really good restaurant. I definitely suggest going if you get the chance. Yeah, we in our family we really like our good food. We like to try to find places that have good, tasty, quality food to eat. Yeah, college can be a pain in the butt by all accounts. We had good grades in college, but we certainly had a hard time maintaining them. It took a lot of effort on everybody's part who was doing the classes because things got a little chaotic. And yes, the dessert is very good. Very, very good. Yeah, when when we were in college the first time, because we've been to college more than once, but when we were in college the first time, we actually had a class that there was so much work in that class. It was ridiculous. We were staying up until midnight every night trying to get the work done. It was insane. I definitely think colleges could do to remember that people in college usually have more than one class and maybe tone it down a little on the workload. Especially because a lot of people also have jobs and things that they have to do. You know, if you live in a place where you have to pay for college, you're kind of out of luck otherwise. Ooh, 5 o'clock in the morning, gross. Yeah, we had to get up really early too, and ugh, I don't like to get up early. I'm not a morning person at all. I get up with my daughter because she's my child and I love her, but I don't like to get up in the morning. I prefer to sleep until 9, quite frankly, if I have the option. In fact, everybody in our system, for the majority, tend to prefer later hours of the day. We do have a couple of very chipper morning people, and I have no idea how they manage to be so darn bright eyed and bushy tailed at the crack of dawn. But, I guess it's just one of those things that you either are a morning person or you aren't a morning person. And if you're not, then you just won't get it, I guess. And yeah, staying up until midnight, not the most fun thing ever. I mean, honestly, we've done it way more often than we should. We sometimes end up staying up really, really late, even if we have to get up early in the morning. And then we're tired and cranky, and it makes us more switchy. And it's really not a good idea, but for some reason, it just seems to happen anyway, much as we try to keep it from happening. Eh, and then, it's one of those things, I guess. And I mean, I've personally been working with Allie, who was our nighttime host when we were a kid, and who is sitting co-conscious with me, co-fronting actually in our body at the moment. But she's just kind of sitting in the body without really doing anything at the precise moment, just because it keeps her feeling grounded. But I've had a lot of talks with her because she has a really hard time wanting to go to sleep, and I think that's part of why we have so much trouble getting to bed. So we're definitely working on that, but yeah, staying up until midnight, not fun. Ah, okay. Yeah, staying up all night, that is not the most fun ever, at least in our experience, because we've done that a couple times too. And for a while, you seem like you're fine because your body's flooded with all those different chemicals and adrenaline to keep you awake. But you hit about the middle of the day, and then you feel like crap, and that's just no fun. And too much sleep deprivation causes other problems. So yeah, it's just sleep deprivation is not a fun thing. It's not. It's very hard to deal with and very unpleasant. Especially, from what we've heard from other systems, as a system, it's very hard and unpleasant because then other people want to do things and the body's too tired, and it just becomes kind of a mess. What is blending like for you guys? I'm just curious because it's different for every system. Because for us, I don't tend to blend a lot with other people, but there are several of our system members who do. So I'm just curious, what is that like for you guys? Because for those of us in our system who do blend in my experience, the few times that I have blended with somebody, it always ends up just feeling really confusing and awkward. It's like we're not sure where one person ends and the other begins, and it gets all muddled and disorienting. Yeah, that's similar to our experience of blending too, and I am really sorry about a teacher ending up triggering out littles. That's hard because then they want to do stuff and they don't necessarily understand why it wouldn't be appropriate for them to be present in that particular situation, and that's that's a tough one to deal with. We've had that happen more times than we can possibly count, where we're in a situation where we very much need to be, an adult person fronting, and all of a sudden here's a little kid, and oh dear. And yeah, we've had to put in all kinds of different, I guess, safeguards in the way that we do things to keep that from happening as much as possible, because it used to happen a lot, and whether it was positive trigger or a negative trigger, and it just it caused some problems because we had kids suddenly finding themselves in situations they didn't know how to handle. So yeah, that's no good. It's no fun. And for us, the way we generally just handled that was we made a rule that littles can't be present unless they're co-conscious with an adult or a protector, just so that there's somebody to watch what's going on. Because once in a while, a little gets triggered out and nobody else can switch out. They're front stuck, and there's nothing we can do. But if there's a protector or an adult co-conscious, then at least they can, guide them through any situations they don't know what to do with. So that's at least been helpful for us, though that took a lot of work. That took years of therapy to get to the point that we could do that. And it's not easy, but so far it's the best thing we've come up with. Oh yeah, slime. I I can't touch that stuff. The texture bothers me. It just something about the way it feels. I can't do it. Mm, it makes my skin crawl to touch it. Uh, but as for how we dealt with that in college, um, usually what ended up happening was that a little would show up, and then they wouldn't know what to do, and they would just sit there quietly and either freak out or just look around and wonder what the heck was going on. And then somebody else, usually one of the protectors, would show up very quickly and be like, no, 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 okay, we're done doing this. You go over here and do something else. And then they would deal with whatever was going on. On a few occasions, it just ended up in them sitting through a class that they didn't really completely understand what was going on, but they just sat there and pretended like they knew what was happening, and just sat and you know made themselves as quiet and unnoticeable as possible, because that tends to be the coping mechanism for a lot of our system, is if they're uncomfortable to be quiet, because that's what worked when we were a kid to survive. So that's the go-to mechanism now, is if you don't know what's happening, just don't draw attention to yourself. But it made it really interesting trying to figure out notes and things a lot of the time, because it's like, wait a minute, why do I have 60 million drawings all over my notes of all kinds of doodles? And what does that mean? It helped later on when we got a tape recorder and we would start actually tape recording classes, as long as the teacher or professor was okay with that. That made it a little easier because then we could just go back and review the recording. And thankfully, we also made friends with different people in classes that we could ask, hey, I guess I wasn't paying attention, or I didn't catch this particular thing. What was this again? And then we could get the information. Oh, hello. Yes. Hello from the US as well. And what time is it in Australia? Because it's 8:30 here. And yeah, it definitely was good that the littles tended to be quiet, because drawing attention to themselves probably would not have gone over well in a college class. That would have, I shudder to imagine how that would have went. It's 1:30 p.m. It's 8:30 p.m. here. So, yeah, it's like, huh, the amazing thing about time zones. Yeah, we were just discussing what it's like when littles end up triggered out in college classes, and that's not a fun time. And earlier we were discussing how the trip went, and the fact that overall it was good, but we had some serious triggers happen and some kind of stuff. But yeah, overall the trip was good, so that was nice at least. Yeah, yeah, because it's gonna be winter for us now, so it's getting colder over here, and yes, triggers suck. So much, so much sucking. Yeah, and I mean, part of it that's hard right now is that right now in therapy, since we've been back from the trip, we've been dealing with some tough stuff and trying to be able to access feelings and be vulnerable. And that's really, really hard for us, especially me, because my job is to be functional and present as normal to the world. So getting in touch with feelings and being able to be vulnerable is very, very difficult. And it's something that we're trying to do right now, and it's kind of exhausting. And I got therapy homework where we're all supposed to talk about it and try to figure out what would help us to feel safe enough to be vulnerable. But I honestly don't know. Nobody else is really sure either, because we've never tried to do it before on purpose. Usually, the way it works is, we keep going and we do our best to cope, and we journal a lot and we talk to people that we can trust, and then eventually we break down and then we do it again. And it just kind of goes round and round and round in that circle. And we've never actually tried to get at the root of the feelings and stuff about our trauma and other stuff. So this is a new territory we're not really familiar with. Oh, that's no fun when family is not supportive. So sorry to hear that. That's terrible. Well, if it would ever possibly help, you can certainly direct them to our videos, and maybe that'll help them understand a little more. Or, to any other resources out there. Maybe they can be made to come around eventually. If not, I guess you guys would have to figure out what the best course of action would be for all of you mental health wise. Do you need to limit contact with them, or what do you need to do? So I can definitely see why that's not a fun situation to be in. Thankfully, with the limited amount of family that is aware of the DID, we've never had anybody have a problem. Family wise, we've had friends who did, and we cut off contact with those people, and we haven't seen them since. But I imagine it's a lot harder with family when they don't get it, because in our experience, distancing yourself from family is hard. Because we did it with almost all of our family because they refused to accept that our father was not a good guy. So yeah, it's not a situation anybody wants to be in, that's for certain. Yeah, definitely. Sometimes cutting contact is the best self-care you can do. I mean, that's a big reason why I don't talk to anybody who's related to our father at all, because they all refused to be supportive and helpful, and a lot of them were incredibly toxic and abusive in their own right. So that was the choice we had to make. And I mean, honestly, I'm one of those people that legitimately hopes that eventually people can come around, but I'm also realistic enough to realize that if they don't want to, they won't. Yeah, it's definitely hard going no contact. It really is. Oh, yeah, that's really hard when you're stuck. Um, in that case, given that they're not willing to try, then the only options really that I can think of, and that I'll see if anybody else can think of anything either, but would be to either attempt to locate somewhere else safe to live, or just avoid them as much as possible until you can move out. Honestly, I don't know that there's a lot else that can be done in a situation like that. I mean, are you currently like able to find somewhere else to live, or is that not feasible at the moment? Because if you like maybe a friend or something like that, or maybe even just going and staying somewhere else a few days every so often just to have a break. But yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, definitely. Just like Dee was saying, you definitely want to have, the ability for everybody in the system who wants to be able to be themselves somewhere, because otherwise it's just going to put a real strain on all of you. Having to hide is not fun, and it's hard on you mentally. Um, while we've thankfully not had to hide the DID, we've had other stuff that we've had to do that with in the past. And so, definitely from experience, I could say that that's not a fun way to live, where you have to constantly worry about people being terrible to you because of the way you are. So, yeah, definitely try to find some sort of outlet for everybody, something that's safe and healthy. Even if it's something as simple as just drawing pictures or talking to people online, or something where you can just be yourself. If you guys want, we have some different links to a couple of good online support groups, and those can be really helpful. for being able to be yourself. So that's certainly an option. So, let us know. But yeah, it can definitely be helpful to find somewhere where you can just talk as yourselves. Okay. Well, in that case, then I guess try to make your room as much of a safe space as possible for everybody, and maybe try to connect as much as you can online with people as each of your individual selves and as a system, so that everybody can talk and have time and whatnot if they want to, and allow that to be kind of an outlet, I guess. I mean, we've definitely had to do that in the past when we didn't really have anybody to talk to. And it definitely makes a difference to have that supportive community, even if they're not physically with you. So it's definitely something that I highly suggest is, find that online community, find your people, so to speak, you know, where you can feel safe and validated until you can get out of there and not have to deal with that situation anymore, which I honestly hope happens soon. Yeah, definitely. Online is great because of the fact that online is anonymous in a lot of ways, and it allows everybody to be able to be themselves. So it can definitely be a good outlet. Aw. Well, we're always happy to receive emails and whatnot. So, you know, definitely feel free if anybody wants to email us, they certainly can. Littles, adults, anybody, as long as it's okay with everybody. We don't have any problem with anybody emailing us as long as it's, polite and pleasant, of course. I mean, we're not going to respond to emails that are mean or anything like that, but I highly doubt most littles would be prone to doing that anyway. But yeah, social media, support groups, even just a DID chat room, because there are actually quite a few chat rooms online specifically for people with DID or other multiplicity broadband kind of things that you can talk to people who get it. So that's certainly an option as well. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because one of the support sites that we've been on, it's called Survivors Chat. They have um, chat rooms, and they have ones that are specifically for littles and specifically for DID. And that's something that we've actually found really helpful in the past, especially for our littles, to be able to talk to other kids who live in grown up bodies or teenaged bodies or otherwise bigger than they are bodies. So it can definitely be a good thing if that's something that would be comfortable for you guys. If not, maybe find a pen pal if you guys don't want to do online. You can always try to send physical snail mail letters. I mean, nothing wrong with that either. Yeah, so I just put in the name of the site right there for you. And yeah, candy, slime, all of that. Cool. I'm sure that the littles would certainly enjoy having those conversations, and they would jump up and down with glee because they love talking to other little kids. So I'm certain that that would be a very lively conversation. And as for how to look for chat rooms, the best way that we've ever found to do it was just to look up chat rooms for survivors or chat rooms for people with dissociative identity disorder, or support groups online. Things like that tend to come up with lots of results that way. So I guess just Google until you find the one that works best, and you can try out lots of different ones, because there are lots of options out there. And definitely, if you guys feel comfortable, check out the one that we just posted on there, because that one's definitely a good one. Yeah, littles hear about toys or other things and they're like, what? Because I've got a couple of little kids turning their heads going, huh? At the topic of this conversation. They're paying quite close attention to what we're talking about. Yeah. Littles are generally adorable when they talk to each other, I have to say, having observed it both after the fact and co-consciously. It's so nice. It's so cute and it's so nice, and it just I am filled with fuzzy feelings of warmness, and I just want to hug all of the small children because I really like kids. It's why I have one. But it's nice. And you are very welcome, and I hope that it does help. Ah, yeah. Yeah, that's a hard word to run into. But unfortunately, they had to put it in there because otherwise they were getting a lot of people who were coming in and being unpleasant about that kind of stuff and causing a lot of problems for people. So they just kind of had to state it outright that that was part of what they deal with. Yeah, it's a hard one. Don't really know what to do with that one. We don't really like it when we run into that word either. It's not so fun. Yeah, definitely. If you guys join the site, you can start in the forums and go into the chat room after you get approved, because you have to get approval to go in the littles chat room for obvious reasons, because safety issues, littles, and need to be protected from potential unpleasantness. So that's an option. Oh, and I thought of another one too that is a good one, so I'm going to type that one in here too. There's the name right there of another one that this one doesn't have a chat room, if I remember right. I might be mistaken, but I do know they have forums that are specifically dedicated to DID, so that's also another option. Oh, it's fine. It happens. I learned a long time ago to accept that littles like to show up when they feel like it, and there's not a whole heck of a lot that can be done to dissuade them if they really want to. And to get approved, you just have to ask a moderator. So you just have to go up to the moderators link and click on one of the moderators and just send them a message and say, I would like to join such and such, chat group, and they can approve you that way. According to the guidelines, if I remember correctly, you need to make an introduction post first. They do that to weed out anybody who's trying to be a troll or is just there to cause problems. And then after that, I think you're approved for regular chat, and then you have to wait for the approval of the moderators to get into the Littles chat. But it usually doesn't take too terribly long, if I remember right. It has been a while. It's been a few years since we joined, so memory's a little fuzzy on that part. But if you have any trouble, just read over the guidelines or ask one of the moderators, and I'm sure they can point you in the right direction. We have a little bit of trouble remembering stuff we haven't done in a while. And as for the Psych Forum one that I posted up there, if anybody checks that out, understand that some people on there can be very brusque and outspoken about things. But if there's something that you're not comfortable engaging with somebody on, you're always free to just say, I'd rather not talk about this with you. And pretty much everybody we ever ran into was respectful of just being told, hey, I'm not comfortable with that. And if not, there's always the ignore function, where if somebody's really being obnoxious, you can just block them from being able to talk to you. So that is a nice thing about chat rooms and forums, actually, is that if somebody is being unpleasant, you can literally just make it so you no longer can see anything they post and they can no longer talk to you. It's kind of nice. Sometimes I wish there was an ignore function in real life. It would kind of be nice. Don't mind my shifting around here. Our back is a little bit stiff today, so I just have to move every so often so that it doesn't stiffen up too much on us. Yeah. The online world certainly does have its perks. It certainly has its downsides, but it certainly has its perks too. And that ignore button, that was probably one of the best things they ever invented on the internet. It was the ability to block somebody who wants to be unpleasant for no reason. Yeah. Yeah, we're all right. We have a herniated disc in our lower back that we injured it years ago, and it just bothers us every so often. So I just have to kind of move around a little bit and try to keep it from getting too stiff. It's something we've kind of just learned to live with. Hopefully, eventually, we can get it fixed. That's our hope. But until then, we kind of just do a lot of stretches and do our best to tolerate it. And yes, a real life ignore button would be amazing, and I so wish we had one. Yeah, that happens. Nothing wrong with littles deciding they want to be close. It certainly seems to be quite common, actually. Heck, I found I can't even go into the toy section or the candy section of a grocery store without feeling a bunch of tiny faces peering over my metaphysical mental shoulder. Like, what you doing? So I can relate. Oh, that actually reminds me of something cool that we saw suggested online that we thought was actually kind of a neat idea. And that's if you have littles in your system who really like stories, you can actually just read a book out loud so that they can hear the story at the same time. And I thought that was actually kind of a cool idea. You can read your littles bedtime stories. It's kind of a nice thought. Yeah, it's a nice idea, just I love books, so I'm good with any reading I'm happy to read anytime, anywhere, and so I really liked that idea. Figured I'd mention it while I was thinking about it. And yeah, the can I have that is definitely always the next question. I remember once very vividly we were at a grocery store and I'm walking along and I happen to notice a display of chocolates. And then the next thing I'm aware of, I am no longer the one in the front, and I am watching as one of our littles goes, "Candy?" and proceeds to be very excited about it and ask my husband oh so nicely if she could please have some candy. I was like, well then, all right, I guess I'm sitting back here now. Okay, that's a thing that happened. All right. Yeah, it's always nice having stuffed animals too for us. We actually have a couple that we keep in the bed, and then others that we have next to the bed in case anybody wants to grab an extra one. We don't tend to put too many in the bed for us, only because some of us get really claustrophobic. So we try not to surround ourselves too much, but definitely one or two nice, soft, cuddly things. It's always appreciated. Heck, I'm almost 30 and I like soft, cuddly stuffed animals, so nothing wrong with that. Oh yeah, you liked the room tour. I'm glad you liked that. Yeah, our room is our sanctuary of interesting and strange things that we managed to collect and somehow make work all in one space. Hey, I say you're never too old for stuffed animals. You're never too old to like Disney movies. You're never too old to like going to Disneyland or going on amusement park rides. I say a lot of the things that they say are just for kids. I say that's a guideline. If you want to like comic books, if you want to like Disney movies, if you want to have flippin' tea parties, I don't care. People should be able to like whatever they like, and there shouldn't be some sort of arbitrary "you're too old for that" age limit on things. I mean, I get not letting kids do things that wouldn't be appropriate for their age, but when you're an adult, really, why can't you just do whatever you want? As long as it's healthy and not hurting anybody. Yeah, I like to read comics and play video games and draw pictures and build with Legos with my daughter. I mean, having a kid is is great in the sense that, besides I have this wonderful little person that I love, it also gives you a very reasonable excuse for why you want to build with Legos at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So people don't give you odd looks or say anything weird to you if you want to color pictures or build Legos or have a tea party because you have a small child sitting next to you. But I definitely think it's silly that people get weird about adults doing those things. It's like, why not? It's kind of like one of the things that bugs a lot of us is when you're a little kid, you can walk up to somebody who seems nice and be like, hey, want to be friends? And then you're best friends. As an adult, if you walk up to somebody and say, hey, want to be friends, somehow you're creepy. And that's kind of sad. I really wish it was so much easier to just be like, hey, let's be friends and hang out instead of having to go through this whole weird social hoopla to be able to make friends with new people. Yep. Yeah, definitely. Our littles really like to play with my daughter, so, that tends to happen quite a lot. My daughter will be doing something, and all of a sudden, there is a small child playing with her, and I'm like, okay, wait, all right, sure. I guess I'll sit and supervise. So that definitely happens quite frequently for us. And honestly, I think it's nice because not only does it give the littles somebody that they can play with, but I think it's honestly nice for outside kids too, because now they get to play with somebody who understands their way of thinking a little bit more, because they're a kid too. I mean, obviously, there should be some adult supervision happening somewhere at some point because small children shouldn't be fully responsible for other small children for extremely long periods of time. But, you know, to come out and play a game or, hang out, I don't see anything wrong with that. Yeah, anytime my daughter wants to color pictures, I've suddenly got several littles being like, "Ooh, I want to color too." And so then we're all coloring pictures. Yep, definitely. And me, I guess I'm a little paranoid. I really don't like to not be aware at all. That's one of the things that I've worked really, really, really hard on is being able to maintain co-consciousness because I don't like not knowing what's going on. That's scary and unpleasant. And, you know, having a small child, that just concerns me. So, I definitely do a lot of supervising from the inside, or if for some reason I absolutely cannot, then the protectors do. So, at least I always know somebody's watching. Yeah, I mean, and I think that, when you're a parent, there's so much more of that need to be supervising just because, you know what the world can be like. No matter what trauma you had trauma, so you know the world can produce it. So you want to watch kids even more closely to try to keep them safe from that as best as you possibly can while not being overbearing or too hovery. I mean, we can't wrap them up in bubble wrap, but that desire to protect them from all of that is something I've seen a lot of parents with any sort of mental health stuff talk about, is that you want to keep your kids safe from whatever bad things you had to deal with. And I definitely relate to that. Well, I'm glad you like slime, and yes, bubble wrap is fun. I like to pop the bubbles. My daughter loves bubble wrap too. For me, I prefer the little bubbles over the big bubbles because the big bubbles are too loud because it hurts my ears. We have very sensitive ears, and me especially. But yeah, definitely bubble wrap is fun. I think bubble wrap is a toy in and of itself as long as it's being used safely. And you can also paint bubble wrap and then press it down on a piece of paper and make really cool looking designs. So that's fun too. Bubble wrap is definitely good. Yeah, my daughter loves to jump up and down on bubble wrap, but she wants to do it on the really big ones, and then it sounds like firework level explosions happening next to my brain, and I'm like, ow. So in that case, I have to be like, no, 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 we're gonna put this one away, and you can have this little one over here that doesn't make such loud noise. Yeah, it's like no, because the big bubble wrap, like they had bubbles like this big, and those are really loud, especially if they're set against a hard floor and then stomped on with a shoe. It's very loud noise. Promptly took that away, and now she only gets to have the smaller bubble wrap because otherwise that's just very unpleasant. Oh, and another one you can do with bubble wrap too that's fun, and for any small children, of course, this would have to be done with supervision. But you can take melted chocolate and pour it on top of clean bubble wrap and then peel it off, and it looks like a honeycomb design. And then you have fun little chocolate teeny tiny cups that you can put stuff in. Like, I've seen people do that and then peel it off and then pour like a little bit of caramel over the top of it or something like that, and then it settles into the little dips and then you just munch away. So that's certainly a fun project for anybody who ever wants to try. We've done it once and I have to say it was fun. Yeah, the little bubbles are fun because they just kind of make that satisfying pop, 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 pop. And there's more of them, so you can pop the bubbles for longer. And pink bubble wrap sounds like fun. Why not? Yeah, our little Lo loves pink, so she very much would relate to the loving of pink bubble wrap. She's currently leaning very close to me as I'm talking about the word pink. As she put it, pink is the best color in the whole wide world, and everything should be pink. That is her contribution to that conversation. That would be fun. You can color white chocolate pink by just adding a little bit of red food coloring to white chocolate, and then you would have pink chocolate bubble wrap. Lo says hi back. Right now, I'm attempting to maintain being the one in the front here because I don't want things to get too terribly derailed because Lo doesn't know how to work the stream stuff on the computer and she wouldn't know how to turn it off. Well, I'm sure if you really like pink, everything being pink would certainly be awesome. Me personally, I like the color red. I like the color black. I like earth tones. I don't really particularly like pink, other than pink frosting is cool because it's nice to look at and it tastes good. But hey, nothing wrong with liking pink. We've got somebody in here who likes probably every color under the sun. Based on everybody that I've talked to in our system, everybody's got a different favorite color. So we've probably got the whole rainbow in here at this point. Oh no, it's okay. You can talk about it if you want. Nothing wrong with that. I just don't want her to show up and then not know how to turn it off when it's time to end the stream, because then she's going to be really confused and then it's going to involve a lot of back and forth conversation, and she's not the most technologically capable of all of us. I mean, she's better than some, but just, don't want anything getting stuck, especially because technically she should be going to bed because it's 9 o'clock here and the small children have bedtimes. So technically, Lo should be going to bed soon. Yes, rainbows. Lots and lots of rainbows. We actually once made a cake that was colored like rainbows. That was fun. And yes, pink frosting. I like any kind of frosting, really. I mean, if it's good tasting anyway, because I love to bake. So frosting is a good thing with me. Yeah, she heard me about it. She's kind of like, but I don't want to go to bed. I don't know anybody who ever really necessarily wants to go to bed, but it's probably a good thing to do. Otherwise, you end up tired. Yeah, I enjoy cake. Cake is honestly one of my favorite things to bake. There's just something so satisfying about it being so just soft and sweet and nice and fluffy, and it's a good thing. Yeah. Oh, now it seems that our protector Bestial, who is a large fox wolf hybrid, is herding the small children to bed because she tends to sleep next to them to keep them safe and make them feel safe. It's rather an interesting internal sight, to be honest, seeing a very large canine creature nosing small children into a herd and then shuffling them off towards the room so they can go to bed. We end up having quite a few entertaining internal moments, though. Like, a good example is that anytime we hear the song Jingle Bells, or somebody sings the song Jingle Bells, then a group of our teenagers get together and dance a choreographed dance that they have made for this song, complete with dressing up in Santa hats and reindeer antlers. And it's rather comical and intensely distracting when you're trying to do something and all of a sudden Jingle Bells comes on the radio and they all come running into the proverbial front room and start dancing this dance. Well, you guys have a good one then, and I hope you guys have a good night. And it's definitely nice connecting with others, and it was really nice to talk to you guys live too. And actually, we should probably be ending the stream since it's about 9:16 here, and we need to do a couple things before we go to bed tonight. Yep, take care. Well, I hope you get to play with lots of pink rainbow slime. Because everybody should be able to have lots of fun playing with things and taking it easy when they need it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and end the stream now because we have some things that we need to do, and we eventually have to go to bed. So I hope you have a good night, and I hope you take care, and I hope you guys get to play with lots of fun slime. So I hope you all enjoyed, and anybody who watches this later, if you're not already subscribed, then please do, and like, and notification bell, all that good stuff. So, bye guys. Have a good one.